Hi there, how are you doing? Thank you so much for creating time to tune in to this channel. I don't take it for granted. If you haven't subscribed, kindly take a second and do that. I'll really appreciate. Today, I still want to talk about assessment. And briefly, or in a nutshell, assessment is the gathering of information and interpreting the same information to be able to establish what a learner knows, what a learner can do, and what a learner understands. And this is done in relation to the specific learning outcomes or to the specific targeted learning outcomes. When I say what a learner knows, what a learner understands, and what a learner can do, in other words, I'm saying what you are trying to assess the knowledge, the skills, the values, and attitudes that have been acquired during the learning process. And remember, as you assess, this is done in line with the targeted learning outcomes. Assessment is very important because it opens our eyes to understand to what extent learning has taken place. So then, why is assessment important? Assessment is important because number one, it is diagnostic. When I say diagnostic, I mean it helps to find out to what extent the competencies have been acquired, to what level. Assessment is also important because it tells us the level of learning, or it improves learning. How does it improve learning? Because after assessment, feedback is given, and this feedback is given to the learner. So the learner will be able to know, in this particular substrand, I met expectation, here I exceeded, here I approached, or I exceeded in all the substrands, or I met expectations in all the substrands. So it improves learning because the learner understands where he or she is in a particular substrand. The same is information, like I've said, feedback is given, needs to be shared with the parents, because actually they are the parents. They have a right to have this information, to know where their child is, and if there's any intervention that needs to be done with their help, they get to be brought on board. So feedback is given to the learner, feedback is given to the parents, and also the same feedback, the facilitator, who is the teacher in this case, is able to interpret and say pupil A or pupil B is at this point. If there's any further action that needs to be taken to improve the scores, the facilitator will be in a position to do the same so that the learning outcomes are achieved. Assessment is also important because it gives self-evaluation. As a pupil enters class, this pupil knows that in my recent assessment or my previous assessment, I was able to score this. And with the guidance that I was given with my facilitator, I need to move from maybe meeting expectation and exceed expectation. So this learner is able to self-evaluate and put in the right measures, which also includes the right attitude towards the learning areas. It also informs teaching, whereby I've said the facilitator also gets to interpret the assessment and know that we need to do one or two things so as to ensure learning outcomes are achieved. Assessment also motivates the learner. And when I say motivates, I mean it depends on how these assessment scores are given to the learner. So we need to be very careful, we need to be very sensitive on how we give this information to the learner, especially if we are talking of learners who are low achievers or learners who are struggling in other substrands, but they could be meeting in other substance. To the learners who are meeting expectation and exceeding expectation, automatically it motivates them. When they see their scores, they get motivated and they aim higher and higher. To the ones who are approaching expectation or they are below expectation, care needs to be put in place so that they don't get demotivated and they don't develop a negative attitude towards this. So you need to do this wisely as you interpret this information to the learners, because you must give the information to them. But then as you give them, use words that will encourage them. Use words that will make them look forward to the lesson so as to better their scores. So with this, having said this, I believe we now understand what assessment is and the purpose of assessment. In the next video, I'll be talking about the qualities of a good assessment. Remember, I previously, sometimes back, I did also videos on assessment tools. You can refer to this as you compare notes with this. Thank you so much for your time. May you be blessed. See you later.